Today we're making this e-commerce website. It is geared towards fashion mainly, but you can use this for anything. As you scroll down, you can see this is the layout that we did. These are the products over here. Then you can see there's categories for men and women. The section over here was actually pretty cool with the video playing and the overlays, as well as other features over here. And there's also this testimonial carousel and this whole layout over here. Very, very nice. If we go look at the contact us page, this is the design for the contact us page. Very cool, very professional. If we go look at maybe the about us, this is how that page is looking. Also very, very cool as well. The shop itself, we went with something quite elegant. It was quite a professional looking design. Here's all the categories as well. Then you can have shop by brands if you want. It's a really, really cool website. And in this tutorial, we're going to be concentrate building out the main home page. Then you'll have everything you need to fill out all the other pages simply by copy and pasting. Now on my website, you can download this as a complete working website, not as a template, as a website. So if you just import it into a fresh copy of WordPress, then all the pages and everything is already done for you, as well as all the plugins, themes, these search capabilities over here as well. Just everything is already there for you so that you can quickly customize and you don't have to actually work through a normal template kit that normally comes with errors. Now, for those of you that want to build this out, this is going to be a little bit of a long tutorial, but we are going to work through this whole homepage over here. And again, you're going to have everything you need to build out the other pages pretty quickly. A couple of things that we also need to go do is we have to get the plugins and the images. So in the description of this video, there's going to be a link to the reference page, which is this page right over here on my website. If we scroll down, there's going to be all the images that we're going to be using for this build. So there you can just download it in one big zip. So all the images that I'm referencing, it's going to be here. Then the other plugin is that essential add-ons. This is the link to the WordPress repository. Then you can just download it and put that in. So we are going to be needing that and Ecommerce as well as the Elementor, of course. Some things that are going to help you a lot before building is just make some example products when you've actually enabled Ecommerce. Doesn't matter how many there's, maybe 3 or something, just a little picture in that so you can see what you're working with. So when it comes down to actually doing something like this, then you already have a couple of example products. Now with all that out of the way, let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, I'm going to show you all the different colors that we're going to be using, so you can just pause the video and just update your site settings as well as the font. So that's going to speed up everything for you. Here in Elementor Page Builder, if you go up to site settings and you click that, you are going to come to this screen right over here. So our colors that we're going to be using are these ones right here. So do copy them over to your actual website. The main ones that you're going to be looking for is these system colors and pretty much all the way down to this primary over here, this pink one. These ones we don't use too much. These are the ones that we mainly use for the buttons. And then the pink is just here and there. Then for the font, what we're going to be using for our main font is going to be the Red Hat display. In your site settings, just make sure in the global fonts that you put Red Hat display for everything except for the text. The text is going to be Roboto. If you want to really customize it, all these fonts over here, main title, page title, all that can be Red Hat display, except for these ones over here that says body text and body text small. Those are going to be the Roboto, but everything else is Red Hat display. It's a really cool font. Okay, so now that we have the colors and we have the font ready, let's go and build out this page. Okay, so to start this off, we are going to start off with our first container. So there's our container, and the setting of this, we're not going to change too much. The only thing we have to worry about is the direction is going to be horizontal. And then if we go to advanced, the padding here, we're going to unlink, and the top is going to be 50. Okay, so now inside this container, we're going to add 2 containers. So drag and put it in, and then duplicate. Now we're going to click on this first container and we're going to change a couple of settings here. So we must just make sure it's full width, and this is going to be 75%. And then the gap is 0. Then if we go over to advanced, the padding here is going to be 0. Then the settings of the second container, it's almost the same. It's full width, except this is 25%, gap 0. And then we're going to change the padding as well. So advanced padding, and that is 0. Okay, so this is what we're going to be starting off with. So these are going to be the 2 main containers, and in here we're going to be putting all these things. As you can see, this get ready is actually rotating as we scroll. It's only going to be visible desktop, not on mobile. In mobile, there wasn't a really good place to put it. Okay, so what we need in this first container is if we go to the plus sign here, The first thing we're going to go is get a text path. That over there, just drag it in and let go. The second thing we're going to need is a heading. So +, heading, and let go. Then third is a button. And in here, we're also going to be putting a container. That container is going to be for this video over here. So +, container, and put it in. Now, for the settings of the text path. So what we're putting in here is get ready to upgrade your wardrobe, just with a little dash there and a space after, because we're going to be making this go into a circle here. So we need that dash and space. Then the path type, it's going to be a circle. And then if we go into style, the size of this is going to be 150. The degrees to rotate is 0. The typography, it's going to be the red hat. The size of this is going to be 33. The weight is going to be 700. The transform is uppercase. The line height, we should put it at a 1.2. Okay. So now the text stroke, we're going to leave alone. The word spacing, we're going to put this as a 5 pixel. The starting point doesn't matter. And the color, we're going to be using that pink color that I'd showed earlier. This one right here in the global colors that we had made. And now we're going to go over to advanced. Now over here, the position, we are going to put this to absolute. We are putting this onto the right hand side. We're going to give this a 50 pixels. And then top can stay the same. And this one's going to be 10 pixels. Now, if we scroll down to motion effects, we want scrolling effects on. We want to rotate. And these settings are fine over there. We're going to make sure that the anchor points are center. And then the final thing we have to do is if we go to responsiveness, we are going to hide this on tablet and on mobile. So now we're going to go on to the heading. Now this heading is this one over here, the unbeatable fashion. Now the text for this is going to be unbeatable fashion sale, and there is going to be this break over here so that the next part of it just goes down to the next line instead of actually having to use 2 headings. So we just have to put that break code there just so that the rest goes down on the next line. Now the title tag over here, we're going to put it as an H3 because this isn't actually describing the page, so we're going to put it as less importance. Then under the style, the typography is the red hat display. This is going to be a 60 pixel. We are going to be putting it as a 70 of bold, and the line height can be 1 EM, and then the word spacing can be about a 2 pixel. That should be fun. Then the color of this, we are going to be just setting it to standard black. One of the other settings over here is if we go to advanced, we're going to unlink this margin, and then on the bottom we're putting this as 20 pixels, and that's looking pretty good over there. Now if we go into style and typography again, we're just going to change the size here for mobile. Here, the size of this is going to be 30. And then the other thing we need to do here in mobile is it doesn't look good on the left-hand side, so we're just going to put it as the center here. You don't have to worry about the rotating text path because that's not going to be visible at all. Okay, so now back in desktop view, we're going to be doing the settings for this button. Okay, so for the text of this, we're going to say it's shop now. And then this we're going to be linking to the shop page. Now, because you have WooCommerce already enabled, you can just type out shop and the page would have been already created for you. Okay, so now under style, we are going to go to typography. It's going to be the red hat display. We're going to be putting this at about an 18 pixel. Then it's going to be a weight of 700 bold. And because I put it in uppercase, it's fine there, but you can say transform uppercase as well here. Then the color of this is going to be this accent color that we had set up earlier. And then in hover, the text here is going to be set to white. And then the last thing over here is the text color. We're just going to set it to black. Then if we go into hover, the text color here is going to be white. And then that should be good over there. Now, if your background color changes for whatever reason, then you can just set it here to the original green accent over there again. So then you're really hardwired in. While we're over here, then one of the last things we have to do is just the position over here. So in a position where it is now, it's fine. But if we go into mobile, we want this to be center as well. Okay, now we are going to do this container right here. Now this is going to be where the video is going to be. So if you look on the reference page, it's going to be this first link here that I have as a video. So with that, we can just say copy, and then we're going to put it here into this actual website. For the settings of this, the content width can be full width. The min height here, we're going to put it as 630. Then the gaps can be 0. And if we go down to additional options, we are just going to make sure that the overflow is hidden. Now, if we go over to style, the background type is going to be a video, and then we can just paste that link that we had copied from our reference page. The start time can be 0, and we are not going to be putting this on mobile. It's better not to have video on mobile. So this setting over here, we are just going to leave alone. Now, before the video loads, we need a placeholder image. So with those images that I've given you, we are going to be looking something that actually works, and it's going to be this one with this man in the hat over there. So to say select, that can be our fallback image. Then if we scroll down to border, this one we are going to change to 16 pixels, so it just gives a nice rounded edge. And then if we go to advanced, to setting the padding to 0. Okay, so now that we have that, it's time to move on to the next container. Now inside this container, we are going to add 2 other containers, and it's going to be for these sections right over here. So we click the plus sign, get the container, put it in, and this one we can duplicate. Now for the settings of this first container, everything can pretty much stay the same except for the min height here. This is going to be 325. The justified content, we want this at the end because we're going to have this over here at the bottom, and then the gaps are going to be 0. Now if we go to style, we're going to do the classic and we're going to put in an image. So the one that we're looking for is this one right over here with the lady with the head slightly tilted. And we can say select. Then the position of this is going to be center. The attachment can be default, repeat is no repeat, and display size is cover. Then if we go to background overlay, we're going to put in a gradient here. Now for this first color, it's going to be this chalky green that we're using for the buttons. So we click that, and then the second color is just going to be transparent. Then we're going to keep everything the same over here, except for the degrees. We're going to be putting this at 45. And the transparency is good enough. Then if we go to the border radius here is going to be 16 as well. It's going to be quite a big theme here with this border radius. Then if we go to margin, we're going to deselect this, and the margin bottom is going to be 20. And then on the padding as well, then this is going to be 30 all around. Okay, so inside this container, we need 2 headings and a button. So click the plus sign, get 2 headings, put it in, duplicate this one, and we go get that button and place it in. So it's heading, button. Now for the settings of this first heading, we're going to give the title of women's fashion, and this is going to stay as an H2. The text color of this is going to be white, and the typography is going to be the red hat display. It's going to be 30 pixels with a bold 700. And the line height here, we can change to EM and maybe make it 1.2 as well. And then obviously while we're in here, we just click it over to mobile, and then the size can be 22. Now back in desktop, we can do the settings for the second heading. This one is going to say embrace elegance and grace. Now this one, the HTML tag, we're just going to put it as a P so it doesn't interfere with anything. Then for the style of this, it's also going to be white, and then the typography is red hat at 18 pixels, 700 bold, and we can do say an EM of 1.2 here as well. And this one we don't need to change in mobile, it's going to be fine in mobile view. We have to go to advanced, and then the margin here we're just going to give a bottom of 20 just to space it out just a little bit. Okay, settings for the button, let's go with that one. Now the text over here is going to be shop now, and then obviously you'd link it to either the shop page or the category of a shop page. Then if we go into style, the typography of this is going to be red hat, and we're going to give it a pixel of say about 13 because it looks pretty good over there, but you don't want it to be a bit too big. So 13 should be good. Then obviously it's going to be a 700 bold as well, and everything else we can leave the same. Then the text color of this, we are setting it to black. The background color is going to be this accent color that we had. Then if we go over to hover, what we're looking for is a text over here. We're going to put it to white, and the background color can stay the same color. So it'll do that sort of thing as well, the same as this one here. Now seeing we've done this one, we're going to do this piece right here. So what we can do is we can just cheat a little bit here. So if we actually just remove this one that we had put as a placeholder, we can duplicate this and it'll speed things up along a lot quicker. So for the settings of the second one, we are going to change this min height here to 510. These other settings over here can stay the same. Then under style, we're going to change the picture, and it's going to be this one here with the man with his hands in his pockets. And we say select. All these other settings can stay the same. And then in background overlay, we're just going to make this a little bit darker. So all these angles and colors and everything can stay the same. This opacity, we're going to be putting it to say a 0.8. So it'll have this sort of look going on over here. Now, for the settings of this first heading, we don't have to change much, but just the text. So the text over here that we're going with is Summer Sale Bonanza, and everything else can stay the same there. Then for the second heading here, we are going to change this to beat the heat with cool savings. Here in the shop button, the only thing you really have to change is the link here that you can send it to whatever page or category that you'd want. Something that I do want to actually just make it a bit better over here. This is a bit too close between this container and this button. So if we click on this button and we go to advanced, this margin here, we're going to delink it, and in the bottom, we're going to give it a 40 pixel. That is perfect. So it'll look a lot nicer and spaced out over there. So now that we've done with this piece here, you can see there's this carousel over here and all this happening here. So now this is what we're going to build over here. This container comes from this section and it overlays on the top of that video there. So it gives this whole nice effect over here. So this is what we're building now. So here we're going to go and add a new container, and the settings here pretty much stay the same except for the direction. We're going to be putting it horizontal, and then obviously the gaps can stay at the 20. Then if we go to advanced, the margin we can just set to 0, and the padding we can delink it, give it a padding of 20 on the top, and that should be fine just like that. Now inside this we are going to need 2 containers as well. So if we click the plus sign, we can take the container, put it in, and we can duplicate this one. So now we have these 2 containers. And for the settings of the first one, the width is full width. The width percentage is going to be about a 75. The direction, we want this horizontal, and the gaps can stay 20. Then if we go to advanced, the padding can be 0. Now for the settings of the second container, this is also going to be full width, and this one's going to be 25%. The gaps can be 0. And then the other thing we have to do here is in advanced, we're just going to give this 30 padding all around. Now, this first container, we have to add yet more containers. So we click the plus sign, we put the first one in, and we're going to duplicate this as well. So now we've got these 2 containers here. So what's happening is the one's going to be this section here and the one's going to be this one right here. Now for the settings of the first one is full width, and it's going to be at 65%. Then the justified content can be on the top, the gaps are 0. Then in the style, we are going to go and choose an image, and it's going to be this one with the lady sitting down with her legs crossed there. So we say select, then the position of this is going to be center, then no repeat, and display size is cover. The background overlay we're going to have to do as well. So we come here, we go to a gradient. The color is going to be that chalky color again. The bottom secondary color is going to be transparent. The degrees here can be about a 63, and the 0.5 is fine. Then for the border, here we're going to be putting it again at 16 pixels so it complements everything else. And for the padding of this, we are going to deselect. The top's going to be 30, the right is going to be 250, the bottom is going to be 30, and the left is going to be 30. So what we're aiming for here is to have all our inner widgets on this side over here. So that's pretty much where all that padding comes in. Now we're going to move on to the second container settings. Now this one is full width at a 35%. The gaps are 0. Now this one's background color, we're going to give it a light chalky color. It's going to be this one that's a C9E4DD. So we can select that. Then the border here is also going to be 16 pixels. And this one needs padding as well, but here we're just going to say 30 all around. Okay, so now that we're done with these ones, we are going to start adding the actual text widgets. So this first one is going to need 2 titles and a button. What we can do here to make it a lot quicker, we're going to copy these 3 different widgets here, and we're just going to paste it there. So we take the first one, we can copy, we can paste it here. Second one, copy, paste, and third one, copy, paste. So we have that sort of effect going on. Alrighty, now don't forget to go and put the link of this button to wherever you need it. Now we're going to concentrate on what we're going to be putting in this container. Now in this container, we're going to be putting another container. So we go to the plus sign, grab a container and put it in. But this one gets a bit interesting. So all these settings here for the actual layout, we're not going to do anything here. But for the style, we're going to go and put this as a white background, because what we're doing is we're building out this here. Then if we go down to border, this is going to be 16, and we are going to be putting in a box shadow. So the vertical, we're going to be putting it at about a 16 pixel, and the blur is going to be about a 25. Now this is looking a little bit dark, so we come up here to color, and we are going to go and put this to maybe a 16%. Now that's looking a lot better. Got a nice roll off happening there. Then if we go to advanced, we're going to delink the margin, and the top we are going to be giving this a negative 240. And then in padding, we are just going to give 20 pixels all around. So we're doing this piece like that. Now, something we want to do while we're here, so this doesn't break on mobile or anything, is if we go over to tablet, we're going to set this all to 0 so that it just falls in line. In mobile, it doesn't matter. It can stay exactly as it is like that. So it'll fall in line as well to 0. So the only time that we're actually doing a negative 240 is going to be here in desktop. Okay, so here we are going to be putting in the loop carousel. So here we click the plus sign, we say loop, and here is the loop carousel. We're going to put that in. And for the settings of this, we are going to choose products, and we are going to say create template. We can say save, and it's going to go into the loop builder over here, and we're going to actually go and stylize how this looks over here. So here is very simple to do. So we're just going to go and say we want a container in here. Inside this, what we're going to do is we're going to go and get a image. So we'll just take a standard image. We don't want the product image itself, just a normal image widget, because with some plugins that you might add to your site, it might break this layout when using that other product widget in this design. So to play it safe, we're just going to be using the standard image. Now this choose image, we are not going to choose an image, but instead we are going to go and say dynamic tags. And over here we come down to product image, and it'll only grab the featured image itself, and it won't do like options or any other weird stuff. Then under style, what we're going to do is just leave this alone over here, and we're going to go all the way down to the border radius. I'm going to be putting this as 16, and everything else is fine. The next thing we're going to do is now we're going to go and grab the product title. I'm going to put that in. We're going to make sure that's underneath the image itself. And for the settings of this, we're going to keep it pretty much the same, except for the title tag. We're going to put this as an H3, so it's a lot smaller. The alignment of this, we're going to be putting into the left. The color can be this blue color over here, which is your primary color there. And the typography of this is going to be Red Hat display at, say, 16 pixels. The bold is a bit too much, so we're going to put it down to about a 600. And everything else should be good. So maybe we could do the EM here also at a 1.2 just to be safe. Now it is looking a little bit weird, but it is going to end up looking like this, so don't have to stress. The other way of actually building these loops is actually building it separately before going into the page. But I mean, you can do the same. You can do it all at the same time. So if we go to advanced here while we're in the product title, the layout here, we are going to delink this, and the bottom we're just going to be putting it as a 5 just to give a little bit of space there. Now the next thing we're going to need is going to be the product price. We're going to go and grab that product price, put it in. For the style of this, we are going to be using maybe the secondary gray. The sales color here can be pretty much close to black, maybe just a little bit off black. Then a typography of the actual price back up over here is going to be the Roboto, and it's going to be 16 pixels. Then the weight here can be 400, and the line height we can change to EM and maybe put it at a 1.5. Then the sale price is similar. We're going to give it as Roboto. This one's going to be 16 pixels. Weight is going to be 400. And also we are going to change the line height here to say a 1.5. Okay, we are almost there. So the last thing we have to do in this whole layout is we're just going to have to add the button. So this, we click the plus sign, we scroll down to go get the button, and we put it in. Now for the settings of this button, here for the text, we're going to say the add to cart is normal. Then instead of putting a link, we're going to be putting in a dynamic tag. And if you scroll down to the bottom, here's the add to cart. So we're going to click on that. Then for the style of this, we can leave the position alone, but the typography, we're going to change to Red Hat. We are going to be putting this to say a 13 pixel. The weight can stay the same and everything else can stay the same. Okay, so now we are good with that. So the last thing we have to do with this is to say save and close. So there is how it's actually looking like, okay? But we do have to go and do a couple of settings to this. Okay, so for the settings of the actual widget itself is we can keep everything the same over here because we just created our template. Number of slides can stay the same. Slides to display, we're just going to say 1. Then we're going to go over to tablet here. 2 is too much, so we're going to change that to 1 as well. Then in mobile, just make sure that it's 1 here as well. So that should be good there. Equal height on is fine. The query don't have to worry about, or you can customize it as you want. The settings here, everything is fine. We don't have to change anything here. You can if you want to. Navigation also, everything's fine there. And in pagination, dots also just fine. Then under style, The layout, we can stay the same. Navigation also stay the same. But under pagination, the spacing here, we should put it about 20 pixels just to give it a little bit of space. Then we're going to go to advanced. Now over here, we are going to be setting all the margins here to 0. The padding, we're also going to set to 0. And we are good. Something I do want to do here as well is while we're in advanced, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the border here. And I'm just going to put that as a 16 pixel as well, just to actually keep with the whole theme of everything. So in case you want to change the background colors or anything of these cards, then at least it'll comply with the actual border radius. We are almost done with the section. Now it's time to go to this last container. So we are going to be doing heading, and button here as well. So this is going to be the one here that we're going to be creating. So let us go and just copy these here. So you can say copy like that, paste, copy, paste, and copy, paste. So we got heading, and button. Now, in the settings of this first one that's currently invisible, the text here we're changing to shop the hottest trends. This one can stay as an H2. The style, the first thing we'll change is make this black. And then the typography, I think we're just going to make this about a 35. Then everything else can stay the same. Now, second heading. The text here is going to be fashion sale now on. Now this one's style tag can change it to maybe an H3, and then under style, the color, we're going to change it to that blue. So there's that primary blue color, and everything else is good to go there. Then the button, we don't have to do any settings. The only thing you have to change over here is going to be the link. Nice and easy. So let me just publish to save it so long. So congratulations, we have made this whole section here, including this really cool overlaying effect there, with a nice little drop shadow and everything. Now we're going to be moving on to this section here, and it's not going to be as bad. This one's going to be a lot quicker. So we're going to start off with this divider that's right here. Okay, so here we are going to add our container that's going to have the divider. So we are going with that container there. Now for the settings of this, we don't need anything special, just the gaps are going to be 0. And in advanced, the padding is going to be 0. Okay, so inside this container, we are going to go get that divider. So there's a divider widget, put it in. And for the settings of this, all the content stuff can stay the same. We are just going to stylize it a bit. The gap here, we are going to put it at 75. And this black, we are going to change this to RGBA, and we're going to put this down to maybe like a 15 or 14. Maybe a 14 is pretty good there. So it'll look like that here. Now the next thing we're going to do is duplicate this, and this is going to be on the top and this one's going to be on the bottom. So if we look here, this is the one on the top, and underneath this product path, here's the bottom one. Now what we're going to do is we need a heading. So this one that we have over here, this we are just going to copy it and we're going to paste it in between the headings. And for the title here, we are just going to say new arrivals. Everything else stays the same because we're keeping to the same sort of design. Now we're going to go get the products widget. So click the plus sign and we say products. Here's the one that we're looking for, and we are just going to put this in underneath the heading. Okay, so for the settings of this, the columns we want 5, and then while we're here in the columns, we're going to go into tablet. This one at 3, that's fine. And then in mobile, we want this as 2. So just make sure it's 2, because like 1 is just too much. So that's all good there. Then the rows over here, we're going to set this to 2. The query can be the latest products. That's all good. And everything else here can stay the same. So we are going to go and stylize this now. So for the column gap, we are going to put this at 40. The row gap, we are going to put this at 75. The image border radius, we're setting this to 15. The spacing here can be 10. The title color is our actual primary color. Then the typography is going to be this red hat. We are setting this to say 16 pixels. Maybe the boldness should be about a 600. The transform, we don't actually have to do anything there. And the line height here, we should put it to say a 1.15, just to give a little bit of a space there. So the spacing here, we're just going to make sure it's 0. The rating color, the star color, this is going to be that pink color that we used right in the beginning with that circle widget. So we're going to put it like that. the empty star color, we're going to put it to white. And these things can stay the same. Then the price color, we are not going to keep it to blue. We want it more of a middle gray, somewhere around there. Then for the typography of this price, we're going to put this to Roboto. It's going to be 16 pixels and it's going to be 400 weight. Then the line height, we're going to be putting it to EM and we're going to put this at 1.5. Now the same is going to be done to the regular price. So this color here, we just copy it, we paste it in there. There in the typography, it's going to be Roboto at 16 pixels. Weight is 400 and then line height is EM 1.5. So then the button here, let's go and stylize that. So the text color here is going to be black. The background color will be one of these chalky light green colors there. Border color we don't have to worry about. Then the typography, it's going to be that red hat display again. It's going to be at 14. Weight should be about 600 and everything else should be fine there. Then under hover, the text color here, we're going to be putting it white and we are going to make a darker chalky color. So I think maybe that one or that one. Let's go with this one. Yeah, that looks good, just like that. Then the border radius here of this button is going to be 8. The text padding, we're going to delink. This is going to be, say, 5, 20, 5, and 20. Then the spacing here, we're going to set this to 5. The view card, the color can stay as is. The typography, I think we can actually just stay it like that. So we're keeping it red hat and the 700, that's fine. And then the line height is EM at 1.8. The box settings here, we're just going to leave it alone. We don't need to do anything to it. The flash sale, we are going to change this up a little bit. So the text color, we are definitely going to keep this at white. The background color, we're going to go with that pinky chalk color. Then the typography is going to be the Roboto and it's going to be 14 with a weight of 400. And then the line height, we're not going to do anything with. Okay, and guess what? We are done with that section. So now that we're done with this and we have this divider, we are coming down to this piece right over here and we are going to go and construct that. Okay, so now we're going to move on. So let's go add a new container here. Now for settings of this container, all we have to do is put the gaps at 0. In advanced, we are going to delink this and put a 75 in the bottom padding. Okay, so here it gets a little interesting. So here what we're going to do is we're going to add a new container. So we click the plus sign, get a container, put that in. So for the settings of this, we're going to keep everything the same except for the gaps. We are going to set at about a 30 pixel. So for the background color for this, we're going to make this a little bit more gray than white. So if just a slight touch, not too much. So a F5 will look pretty good over there. Then if we go down to border, here we are going to set this to 16 pixels and then we go to advanced and put the padding to 0. Okay, so this is what we are pretty much making around over there. Then something we must do just before we carry on is we just go to layout and we're going to make this horizontal. So when we're going to put in our containers and everything to actually make these sections, it just goes horizontally. So now we're going to add those containers. So we put in the first one and we duplicate and duplicate. So now we've got our 3 containers. So let's go into the settings of the first one. So for the settings here, we're going to make sure it's full width and this is going to be set to about a 20 and the gaps are 0. Then what we're going to do is go to advanced and then the padding here, we are going to delink this. We're going to put it to 30, 10, 30 and I think a 40 on the left. Now what we need here is going to be the title and a text widget. So this title here, we are just going to copy it and we are going to paste it inside there. And for the settings of this, we're going to say popular categories. Underneath this, let's go get that text widget, put it in, and then the color, that 7A should be fine. The typography of this, we're just going to make sure it's Roboto. It's going to be 16, 400 is fine, and the EM can be 1.5. Okay, so now that we're done with this first one, let's go do the settings of the second one. It's full width at 40% and the direction is horizontal. The gaps can leave the same. And then if we're going to the advanced, the padding is just going to be set to 0. Now we are going to be doing these two in that same container. So we're going to need 2 containers in here. So we click the plus, get a container, and then we duplicate this. So now we have the 2 there. Now inside here, we are going to go up this page and we're going to copy the second heading widget here, the one that says a flash sale. We just say copy, we'll paste it in here, and then we'll go get the same button that was in the same place. We go copy and we paste in here. Okay, so for the title here, we're going to call this categories for men. We can maybe put this to an H2. Then everything else can stay the same except for the text color. We are just going to make this a 1F sort of thing, that it'll look like that. Then under advanced, we are going to change this bottom from 20 to maybe a 15, and we are good to go there. So now this shop now button, here we're going to say view all, and we're going to put in an icon. So here we'll just click on this icon library. We are going to say arrow, and this long arrow over here looks good. So we'll just insert that, and we're going to put it at the end. Then under style, the only thing we're going to change with this button is if we go to typography, we're going to change it from 13 to maybe a 15. Now that we've finished this one, we are going to add this second one here. So what we'll do is we can now just remove this placeholder. We can say delete, and then we'll just duplicate this entire container. So now there's 2 categories for men. So the only thing that we have to change is obviously the links, and then this category for men changes to women. And that is that. Next, container. Now this is where we are going to do this image one here. So for the settings of this container, the width here, we're going to be putting it to 40%. The justify content, we're going to be putting it to the end, and the gaps are 0. Then under style, we're going to actually select a background image. We are going to be using this guy with the beanie and the glasses, and we'll just say select. The position is going to be center, and the repeat is no repeat with display size cover. Then if we scroll down, we're going to go to border, and this is going to be that 16 again. And if we go to advanced, the margins we're going to set to 0. The padding, we are going to set this to 30. Okay, so in this container, we're going to need 2 headings and a button. So let's go and get 2 headings and a button. So we're going to scroll up, and this one's over here. We're going to use these ones. It's just going to be the quickest. So we copy these 3, and we're going to paste all 3 of those things into this container. So we go paste, copy, and we paste, and we go to the button, copy, and paste. And the way we want this is actually the small heading first, then the bigger one, and then the shop now. So let's get started with this first heading. So for the title here, we're just going to say step into savings. This one can maybe be an H2. Then under style, the text color here can be white. Then under typography, we're just going to make this say to a 15 pixels. Then if we go to advanced, the bottom here we'll just set to 10 pixels. Actually, while I'm looking at it, I'm going to go back into style, typography, and I think the transform, I'm going to set it to uppercase. Then that looks way better. Now we're going to move on to the second title. This one's title is going to be fashion sale with incredible discounts. And under style, we're going to make the text color white, and we don't have to change anything else in this screen. Then under advanced, what we're going to do is we're going to delink this margin, and then on the right, we put it to 100, and the bottom is going to be a 30. And that is that. So now we can go onto this button, and the only thing we're going to change over here is under advanced, the margin is going to set to 0. And that is that section. So we have made this one right here. Great stuff. Let me just save so long. So here comes one of those tricky ones again. It's not so bad. Okay, so to start this off, we need our container. Now for the settings of this, we're going to be putting this horizontal, and the gaps here are going to be 0. Then the other thing we're going to change is go to advanced, go delink the padding, and the top can be 75. Now inside this container, we're going to need 2 containers. So we're going to grab a container, put it in, and this one we're just going to duplicate. Now for the settings of this first container right over here, what we want to look for is if we scroll down to justify, it's going to go to justify top, and this is going to set to 0. Then if we go to style, the border radius, we're just going to set this to 16. Then under advanced, we are going to set this to 0. Now inside here, we're going to have that video. So we're going to click the plus sign, and then we just type out video, because we're going to take the video widget on this one. Then the video link that we need is, if we go back to the reference page, it's the second one right here. So we're going to copy that whole thing. And then here inside the widget, we're going to change the source from YouTube to self-hosted. We're going to say yes, external URL. Then we just paste that URL that we just got from my reference site. Then the video options, we're going to say autoplay yes and loop yes. We are not going to put anything else on over here. And that is all we need to do for this video. So this is how it's going to look like at the end. So let's move right along. We are going to go onto the settings of this second container. So what we're going to need to do here is we're going to have to put this one horizontal, and that should be good there. Then under advanced, the padding, we're also going to set this to 0. We're going to control our own padding. Now inside this, we are going to add the image widget and then a container. So let's just do that now. So we go to the plus sign, we go to the image widget, put it in, then plus sign, we get a container and we put it in. Just make sure it goes into the right spot. So the way we want it is the image first and then the container. Now for the settings of this image, we are going to select these two ladies over here with the yellow background. We're going to say select. Then everything else we can leave the same here. Then under the style here, what we're going to do is we're going to change the border to solid. We are going to say that this is 1 pixel. The border color can be white and the border radius can be 16. We do want a little bit of a shadow. So when we click that, the vertical here can be 22 and the blur can be 33. Then the color here, we are going to tone this down again. So we're going to go down to say about a 15. Then once we're done with that, we're going to go over to advanced and we're going to change the margins here. So we're going to unlink this. The top here is going to be minus 50. Then these two can be 0 and the left can be minus 150. Then the width here, we're going to choose to custom and we are going to change this to pixels and we are going to set this at 100. What we're going to do while we're here, we're going to go back up to the top margin and we're going to go into tablet. Now this top margins won't work in tablet, so we're going to delink this and the bottom we're going to give it a 30. And then the width here, we're going to say full 100%. And then we don't have to worry about anything in mobile because mobile will work perfect. Okay, so now we go back into desktop view and now we're going to fill out this piece here. So for the settings of this container, what we're going to do is we're going to have center justify of content and the gaps are 0. Then the only other thing we're going to do is go to advanced and padding is going to be set to 0. Now this heading and this text widget here, this will be perfect for here. So we're going to say copy and we're going to paste and we'll copy the text and we'll paste it here. Then we can copy one of these buttons as well. So we'll just copy this one and we'll paste it. Now for the settings of this title, then the title is going to be unlock the magic of passion. Then the title text will be unlock the magic of fashion. And this one can stay in H2. The style, all we're going to do is put the alignment to the left. Then if we go to advanced, what we're going to do is uncheck the margins here. In the bottom, we're going to give 30. And while we're here, this width, let's make it the full width 100%. Then for the settings of the text widget, the only thing we have to change over here is if we go to advanced, the margin can also be unlinked. And in the bottom here, we're also going to give it a 30. Now moving right along to the button. The settings of this button, for the settings of this button, the text is going to be reimagine your fashion story, and everything else can stay the same for the settings of this button. If you'd like and you want it to make a little bit bigger, what you can do is under style, if you go to typography, the line height here, you can just increase it to about a 1.8 EM. Okay, so guess what? It's time for another container. So we're going to take a new container and we're going to put it underneath this button. So what we're going to be making is now this piece right over here. So for the settings of this container, we're going to go a little bit crazy here. So for the content width, the width here, we don't want it at 100%, but we want it at 118. For the gaps, the 20 is fine over there, but we are going to make this horizontal. Then under advanced, we are going to delink this. The top is going to be 50, 0, 0, and then minus 120. The padding here, we're going to set to 0. Then while we right over here, we're going to set this to tablet. And for the margins, we are going to set this to 0 again. The padding, we should actually change here. It's going to be 30 on top. And then in mobile, we don't have to worry because everything's been taken care of in tablet. So in this container, we're going to be putting 3 images. But let's just concentrate on the first one, and then we can just duplicate it across. So we're going to click the plus sign, grab the image, and put it in. Now, the image that we're looking for is the lady covering her eyes. This one right there. We say select. And what we're going to do is go to style, and then the border radius here, we're going to set it to 16. And that's pretty much all we have to do. So now we can duplicate this 2 more times. Now, the second one, we're going to change the image to a whole rack of clothes. But I want the one with the leather and the denim jacket. So I'm going to say that one. And then the third image, I'm going to select the lady with the pink top and a handbag. This one right there. Say select. Now, if yours looks funny like this, like mine, don't have to worry. It will look fine in the front end. So if I click publish and I preview this and we scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see that they are quite in line. Okay, so we are done with this whole section over here. Now we're going to be doing this piece over here and one more, and we are done. So this one, what we're going to do is in the home page, if we scroll up to the section where we had all the items, this, I'm just going to copy this entire thing. And here in this area here, I'm going to paste it. So what we don't need is this heading and this product loop. So this we can delete, and the heading we can delete. So what we're looking for is just the settings of the container and then the 2 dividers. Now inside this new section, we're going to add a new container in between the 2 dividers. And the settings for this container is the only thing we're going to change is the gaps. We're going to set to 50. Then the background color, we're going to give it a chalky green color. This lighter chalk color is perfect for here. Then if we go down to border, this we want it at 16. And then if we go into advanced, the padding here, we are going to make it 40 all the way around. Final thing is if we go back into layout, we are just going to make this horizontal. What we're going to be putting in inside here is this container here and then this one here. Let's go get that container. So here's a container widget, put it in, and then this one we can duplicate. Now for the settings of this first one is we want this full width at 40%. The justify content can be center and the gaps 0. Then for advanced, the padding, we're just going to set this to 20 all around. Then inside here, we want 2 headings, a countdown, and a button. So to make this a lot quicker, we're going to copy these 2 headings over here because they're the perfect sizing. So we are going to copy this one, paste it in. Second one, copy, paste it in. Then this button here with the reimagine, that is pretty cool. So we'll copy that one and we'll paste it in. And then the last thing we need is a countdown. So we click the plus sign and we say countdown. So this is the one we're looking for, and we'll just put it there in between the buttons and the headings. So for the settings of this first heading, we are going to give the title of limited time offer. We'll change this to maybe an H5. The style, we'll just put this to the center. And then typography can stay the same, but the letter spacing, we're going to change to EM and we're going to give it, say, 0.15. Then the last thing we're going to do is take this text color and we'll make it black. Then for the settings of the second heading is the title is going to be grab your favorites at our fashion sale. The HTML tag stays the same. Then under style, the alignment can be center and the text color can be black. Okay, so under advanced of this one, the only thing we're going to change over here is the right can be 0. The bottom can stay the same. Now moving on to the countdown. So this can be whatever due date that you want to set it at. Then the view can stay as block. Everything else can stay the same here. And then the container width, we're going to set this to maybe a 90%. The background color is going to be a darker color like that, so that it really offset the lighter green. Then the border type we're going to set to solid, and the border width is going to be 1. The border radius can be an 8, and we are going to make this white. The padding in here, we're going to set this to, I think, 10. Then the content here, for the digits, we are going to set this to red hat, and then it's going to be a 30 pixel. Then the line height, we're going to change this to EM and maybe put it at a 1.2. And then the word spacing here, we can just keep it at 2 pixels. Then we just look at the label quickly. This is going to be Roboto at a 14 pixels. The 400 is perfect there. The line height can change to EM and 1.5, and everything else is good. Okay, now we are going to move over to the button. So for this button, the text here is going to be grab your favorites. Then the icon spacing here, let's just put it to a 20. Then under style, we're going to put this to the center, and that should be good like that. What we're going to do is here on the countdown widget, let's just give a little bit of spacing there. So if we go to advanced and we go to the margin here, we're going to deselect this, and then the bottom can be 30. So this gives a nice spacing there. Okay, now we're done with that. We are going to put this section here. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the settings of the second container we had added here. So for the settings of this container, we're going to keep it at full width, and we're going to say that this is 60%. Then the only other thing we're going to do is go to advanced, and the padding can be set to 0. Now to speed this along, I'm going to copy this product widget, and I'm just going to paste it right here. Now obviously this is way too big, but we don't need so many. So here for the rows, we're going to set this to 1, and the columns here, we're going to set this to 3. Then while we're here in mobile, we're just going to double check. These are going to be fine. So if we go into tablets, we can see that this is set to 3. And then if we go into mobile, this is set to 2, and that should be fine. So now we've got that. So what we're going to do is now we're going to just change a little bit of the styling. So if we go over to style here, the column gap is a little bit big. So we're going to set this to say 30. And then the rows don't matter, so we're just going to set this to 0. Then the background color, we are just going to take this one color higher so it just stands out just a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this color over here, which is the 92C9BD, that darker chalk color we're going to add there, and it should be fine just like that. And that's all that we have to do there. So now that we've got this section here, we are going to move on to the last one. Okay, so here we're going to add a new container. Now for the settings of this, we're just going to put the gaps to 0, and then obviously the advanced padding is 0. Then inside here, we're going to add a new container. We're going to put that in, and this one we are going to put it horizontally. The gaps for this particular one is going to be 50. Okay, so in here, what we need to do is we're going to add 2 containers. So we go to the plus sign, get the container, put it in, and we'll just duplicate this. Now for the settings of this first container, we are going to make sure it's full width, and this one's going to be 60%, and the gaps we'll set to 0. Then the only other thing we need to do is go to advanced, padding 0. And in this one, we're adding yet a new container. So that one goes in. The settings of this one is full width, but for the percentage, we're going to change it to pixels, and this one is going to be 320. The align items is going to be center and the gap 0. Then for the padding of this one, we are going to put this a 30 all around. The position of this we're changing to absolute, and we're going to take out the first number, and the offset of this is we're going to change this to percentage, and we are going to set this to 21. And while we're here, let's just be safe, I will put the Z index to 1. Then as a final note, what we should do is we'll just go up into style, and we're going to set this background color to white, just like that. Now inside this absolute window, what we're going to do is going to add 2 headings and a text. So we're going to go and we're going to get this text widget, we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste it inside this container here. Just make sure it's inside that container. Then the second thing is we're going to grab one of these smaller headings, so we're just going to copy that one, and we're going to paste it here as well. And we're just going to make sure that the heading is above the text, and we are going to duplicate this heading. So we've got 2 headings and a text. Now for the settings of this first one, we're going to say that this is Instagram. This can be an H5. The styling of this, we just make sure it's center. The typography of this, we are going to make this say about a 15 pixels, and everything else can stay the same. And then on the line height, we're just going to make this a 1. And something else while we're over here, the transform, we can put it to uppercase. Then the color we're looking for here is that chalky pink, and we should be good there. Now for settings of the second one, Here we'd give that Instagram name, so that more than @style, and this we can also put to an H5. Then under style, we're going to put the alignment to center, and we don't have to do anything with typography. And then if we go to advanced, we're going to change this 15 to 20. Then for the text widget, all we're going to do is go to style and put it to the center. So now that we've constructed this box, this is the one that we made over here. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be putting in this media grid behind there. So we're going to go to the plus sign and we're going to say media, and it's going to be the media grid here. So we're going to take that and we're going to put it in. Now that it's here, what we're going to do is we're going to take it out of this container we just made, and we're going to put it next to it. So it's actually next to the container. But what we're going to do is close this container and just move it above the grid container. So you can see it's floating there. So for the settings of this media grid, the grid layout, we're going to change to masonry. Image resolution can be full. The columns can be 4. Load more, no, we don't want. The categories, we are just going to take that all out. Then the images, let's just take out the second one and we'll do all the settings to the first one. So this first one, we're going to click it. And the picture we're looking for is this lady's hand on the step looking concrete. And we're going to say select. Then the width here, we're going to say 2. And the height, we're going to set to 2. And then everything else can stay the same. So we're going to close this and we're going to duplicate it. And what we're going to do is we're going to make 8 in total. So the second one, all we have to do is change the image. So it's going to be a model that's in this pose right over here. We say select there. Then we close it, duplicate it, go for the third one, which is this lady taking off this jersey. We say select, close it, duplicate. Fourth, it is this shot over here with the green handbag. Say select. We close it, duplicate again, and we are looking for the shoes image. So this is the one that we want there. We close that, add a new image, and this is going to be a blue shoe picture. So it is this one right here. Say select, duplicate again, and we're looking for shoes again, but with an orange background. This is the one right there. Say select, and we're doing our last one, which is going to be a lady on the beach. There we are, and say select. Alrighty, so we can close that. Now under display options, the display gap here is going to be 5. The skin style stays the same. The hover effect, we're going to say none. Then always show player icon, we'll say no. Everything can be center aligned. And if we go into lightbox, we're going to say no because we don't want it to trigger a lightbox. And under responsive, we can leave it at no. And now we can stylize it. So the border radius here, we're going to set to 8. And then in image, the border radius here can also be set to 8. The title and description and icons, we don't have to worry about at all. And I think we are good there. So something that we're going to need to do is if we click on this white container, so this one right over here, if we go into style, we are going to go to the border and we're also going to give this a 16 pixels just to round it out as well. So there. And then in advanced, something else that we need to do is actually in the self-align, we are going to put this to center. Okay. So for the settings of the second container here, the full width's going to stay the same, but we're going to set this to 40%. Then the gaps are going to be set to 0. And under advanced, the padding here can also be set to 0. And now we are going to do our final widget, the reviews. So let's go and get this widget. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey. Oh man, you think it's bad watching? You must try to film these things. Okay, so for the settings of our final widget, the additional options, we're going to take out the arrows. We don't have to worry about the slides at all. And everything else can just stay the same. Then in style, the space between here, we're going to set this to 30 pixels. The background color, we'll just set it to a slightly off-white, nothing too crazy. Somewhere around there, that F7 repeated looks pretty good. Then the border width, we are setting this to 0. The border radius, going to set this to 16. The padding here, we are going to set to 30. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go copy this background color here quickly. We're going to copy that. So that's the same color here for the background of the header. Then the pixels here, the gap pixels is 30. And the separator is no. Going on to the text options, we don't really have to worry about this color. It can set to something slightly dark gray, like a 49 repeated. The typography of this is Red Hat display there at 18, 700 on the weight. Everything else can stay the same, except for the line height. We can change this to EM and put 1.2. Then for the title here, it's also going to be Red Hat at 14, and also line height change to EM and put at 1.2. Then the review color, we're going to put in that same color we've been copying from the top, that F7. Then the review color, we're going to take the same name, the color of the name, and we are going to paste this into here. Then for the settings of the review, this is going to be Roboto. We're going to put this at say 16. The weight of 400 is fine. Then the line height change to EM and 1.5. Then the image over here, the size here, we're going to set it to 40, and the gap we're going to set to 15. Then under advanced, delink the margin. The right can be -15 and the left can be -15. And guess what? We are done. All we have to do is click publish. So if we look at it in the front end, we have gone and made everything just like that. Now from this point, if you're still even watching this video, you can copy all these things and you can put everything into the other pages. So this section over here that says new arrivals that we had made, this you can go and put it into the shop page itself, because you've done all the styling in that, so that can work inside the shop page. Then also, like all these colors and designs and everything, you know how to do it. We have repeated this so many times. So you can copy these buttons to wherever you'd like, these type of layouts wherever you'd like, and it's just going to work. It is all there for you. The only thing that you really have to stylize would be the contact form, but by this point in the video, you can easily do it in this whole style and you'll get it perfectly right and there won't be a worry. And again, the guys that have actually stuck around, holy crap, if this took me like 3 hours to just film, never mind edit and condense it to something smaller, which I have no idea how long this is going to be. Anyways, thanks for watching and I want to see you in the next one.
I hope you liked this video. If you did, smash that like button, and if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing as well. That stuff makes a big difference to a small channel like mine. If you have any suggestions or anything, then just put a comment down below. Let me see what I can do. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.